Are the original ships in No Man's Sky now obsolete? With the introduction of the fully customizable Corvette ships, it's a question that I've been hearing more and more about, is whether or not the ships we've been hunting, trading and upgrading for the last 9 years still even have a place in the game. I actually ran a poll of this question on my channel asking you guys what you thought, and nearly 1,000 of you voted, and I'll be going over those results a little later, but for now, let's get stuck in and break this question down. And I'm going to start with a very quick look back at the history of ships in No Man's Sky and what has been added over the years. And I'll start off with the launch era of the game, so let's say 2016 to maybe early 2018, basically the first 18 months or so of No Man's Sky going live. Now these were the absolute base starships in the game, and those included your fighters, your explorers, haulers, shuttles, which on the whole were fairly basic. But they defined the early ship hunting experience, and shortly after that, we got access to exotic ships via the Atlas Rises update. Now, if fast forward to 2020, we saw the introduction of the living ship, which gave us a totally different vibe to ships. They are organically grown, tied to void eggs, divisive, but undeniably unique. And they still are. After that, in 2022, came solar ships, which had those sail-like designs, and they gave ship hunting a whole new aesthetic dimension. And fast forwarding again to 2023, we got the Sentinel Interceptor ships. Now, these were stacks full of Sentinel tech, and they could be found on corrupted worlds, and they were probably the biggest ship shake-up pre-Corvettes, I would personally say. But over all those years, I'd also like to mention the multiple unique ships you can get as rewards from various expeditions as well, like the Boundary Herald and the Wraith, and others along with them. But finally, in 2025, of course, we got Corvettes. Fully customizable modular ships where you have complete control over shape, design, and stats. These have been a total game changer in No Man's Sky and a feature a lot of players never thought would ever be added into the game, and I'm certainly included in that. But these Corvettes have changed the rules completely, especially for ship hunters, because now instead of waiting around for your dream S-Class fighter or S-Class exotic to spawn in the station or hopping systems for that perfect wing configuration of a Sentinel ship, you can now just build it. Sort of. Want a massive cargo beast? Done. Want a sleek fighter with max maneuverability? Piece of cake. Want a giant dreadnought style ship with maximum cargo, damage capabilities and warp distance? Yep, you can do that too. Want something that looks exactly like the ships you used to hunt for? No problem, because you can almost basically recreate them. This fundamentally shifts how ship hunting actually works. Now, ship hunters who used to spend those hours scanning trade posts might feel like the chase is being taken away. But at the same time, Corvette customization introduces a new kind of grind hunting, so you're hunting for modules now rather than ships, at least in this instance, rare parts to upgrade that Corvette of yours and turn it into a true powerhouse. So while traditional ship hunting may decline, a brand new form of hunting has emerged in its place. And that is probably the one major upside for you ship hunters out there, is that Corvette customization doesn't necessarily kill ship hunting off, it just redirects it to something different. So like I said, instead of hunting for ships, you're now hunting for the best possible modules to slot into a Corvette. Alternatively though, the new Corvette system can actually support traditional ship hunters because not everyone will want to spend time building their very own ship and customizing it to their heart's content, because it can take a lot of time, you may be a bit of a perfectionist, or you might just not like doing it. So for these players, the original ships might hold a kind of heritage value, and for the collectors of you out there, Corvettes can fill performance gaps, while OG ships can still be treasured for rarity, nostalgia, or just aesthetics, I guess. But back onto the actual question itself. Are the original ships in No Man's Sky now obsolete with the introduction of fully customizable Corvette ships? I'm going to go over both sides of the question here, and I will be giving you my verdict afterwards, so don't jump to conclusions on what I actually think until you've reached that part of the video. I'll first start off by looking at the case for Corvettes making the old ships obsolete, and the first argument is, of course, aesthetic freedom. In the past, a big part of ship hunting was waiting hours upon hours, sometimes even days, for a ship with just the right wing shape, or the right color scheme, or the right stats to spawn. But now Corvettes put all of that in your control. If you want that ship that looks like a classic fighter, you can just build one. If you want something wild, never before seen, you can also build that too. And I've seen some wacky fecking things on Reddit. You guys have some crazy imaginations. But once you've got that level of freedom, traditional ship hunting can start to feel a little bit like a waste of time. The next point could be endgame relevance. Historically in No Man's Sky, every new ship type added a fresh reason to hunt ships. You can hunt for exotics for prestige, solars for style, interceptors for power, and so on and so forth. But with Corvettes, you don't just get a new ship type, you get the ship type. They're positioned as the ultimate ships. They're customizable, they're scalable, they're modular, and that makes everything else feel like lower tier options to some degree. Why keep a shuttle when you can just design a Corvette that does exactly the same job, but better? And even the base stats can come into play. So with Corvettes, you're not limited by the random rolls of a ship you find in a station. Instead, you can carefully select components and modules to push your Corvettes to the levels beyond anything a traditional ship can manage without significant upgrades. Whether that's hyperdrive range, damage output, or shield strength, you can consistently max out these stats rather than hoping for one that's quite good after you've been waiting for hours on end at a trading outpost. And even then, you'll need to apply a multitude of upgrades to boost those stats. So from a practical standpoint, it's very easy to argue that Corvettes can make the OG ships redundant. They're far more customizable, far more convenient, and you don't have to spend hours trying to find the one you like. You can just build it instead. And for some players, that's enough to leave their old fleet collecting dust on their freighters. But before I start writing the obituary for the OG ships, let's take a step back and flip it. There are some very strong reasons why the OG ships still matter and why Corvettes can't fully replace them. And I'm going to start off of all sentimental, because I feel like this when I jump back into my pretty much fully upgraded squid ship. My first point is nostalgia and perhaps emotional attachment, like that exotic you camped at a trading post for back in 2019. That very first S-Class fighter you scrapped together from nanites and upgrades. Those ships aren't just stats, they're like gameplay memories. They represent your story in No Man's Sky over the years. And no matter how sleek that Corvette is, it can't replicate the sentimental value of those experiences. Take my red squid ship, for example. I found this by waiting for hours on end at a trading outpost, and I've upgraded it gradually over time. I reckon if you went back on my YouTube channel and looked at a lot of my videos from, say, the beginning of 2022 until maybe the first part of 2025, whenever I was flying a ship, it was most likely my squid ship. Second is unique mechanics and identities. Like, take living ships as an example. They are alive, they breathe, they pulse, they even have their own quest line. Solars have their deployable solar sails, adding a distinct style in flight. Interceptors have corrupted technology that can't easily be duplicated in a Corvette form. Each of these ships still has an identity that makes them stand apart from Corvettes, no matter what you end up building. And third, collection and rarity value. For ship hunters, the thrill is in the chase. The act of scanning stations, waiting at trade posts, hunting cross ships, spotting that one-of-a-kind model, it's a gameplay loop in itself. Corvettes totally short-circuit that loop, sure, but they don't erase the joy of collecting. For many players, it's not about what's optimal, it's about what's rare. A Corvette can imitate an exotic, but it will never be that exotic. But finally, player identity and fleet diversity. Corvette might be the new meta ship, but part of the magic of No Man's Sky is showing off your fleet. A Corvette surrounded by a mix of fighters, haulers, solars, and exotics tells a story about your journey over the years. So while Corvettes are flexible and undeniably convenient, they don't erase the legacy of the original ships. Instead, they highlight the tension between building the perfect ship and cherishing the imperfect one you hunted down years ago and have been flying around the universe ever since. And now here is my take on the question. I absolutely love Corvettes and the freedom they offer. The fact that I can finally design ships exactly the way I want to, it's one of the best updates in No Man's Sky has ever given us. In fact, for me, it's probably the best update ever added into the game. But I do not think it makes original ships obsolete. In fact, it's not even close. No matter how customizable Corvettes are, they don't carry the history, they don't carry the memories of the first time you spotted a glowing exotic on a space station and scrambled to claim it. They don't replace the unique mechanics of living ships, or the style of solars, or the corrupted menace of interceptors. Yes, Corvettes are an amazing addition to the game, and they give us a totally new way to play, and they give us another goal to chase. So my overall verdict is Corvettes are the ultimate toolbox to do with whatever the hell you want. But the original ships are the heart and soul of the game, and not to mention our original ships could probably blow our Corvettes out of the water, assuming they're upgraded, so they still absolutely have a place in the game. And now that you've got my verdict, let's take a look at what you guys had to say. And as of me recording this audio, nearly 1,000 of you voted in my poll on whether or not Corvettes make the original ships obsolete, and the results are in. Right now, 29% of you said yes, the original ships are obsolete due to the introduction of Corvette ships, whereas 67% of you agreed with me and said no, they're not obsolete. Now those are the total raw stats on the poll, but the real gold was in the comment section where you guys laid out some really thoughtful arguments either side. So here are some of the main themes that came up. The first one, and it's something that applies to some of my ships as well, is that their old ships, like their Sentinel Interceptors, Solar ships and others, outperform their Corvettes in specific areas, and in some cases they outperform their Corvettes in all areas. So you guys said, even though the Corvette might be versatile, it's also bulky and clunky to handle in dogfights. So for quick missions or high maneuverable combat, traditional ships are still the way to go. There were a couple of calls for the original ships to be upgraded, so players asked for customization options like color changes, modular parts, stickers, or even expanded functionality like hovering, spacewalk exits like you can do in the Corvette, or resource scanning. The idea was that if the original ships could get some of the flexibility of the Corvettes, both systems could totally coexist instead of compete with one another. And the flip side is you guys were also very keen to point out the strengths of the Corvettes. A lot of players pointed out the obvious. They are incredible as mobile bases. They give you refiners, storage, even the ability to walk around inside while you're flying around. For explorers, that's a bit of a game changer. Some compared them to vacation homes in space, a place to carry everything you want wherever the hell you go. But it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. A recurring frustration was that Corvettes don't quite fit in with the rest of the game world in No Man's Sky. Like, they don't have proper landing pads, NPCs don't use them, they sometimes spawn awkwardly when they get called in, and then tech slot space also came up, so many people felt like Corvettes get overcrowded with systems, making them harder to optimize than a smaller starship. And some of these may, of course, get ironed out in future updates. We know what Hello Games are like, they love listening to feedback, but right now, that is the reality of the situation. And finally, a lot of you stressed that ships are more than just stats. So this sort of goes back to the point I made earlier in the video. People have spent years building collections of ships with rare exotics, unique fighters, living ships, and these vessels tell personal stories, and many players said they'll always keep flying them, even if Corvettes can technically be more powerful or more useful. And for some, ship hunting is the end game, and Corvettes don't erase that, they just add another layer. I think overall the community doesn't see this as a black and white issue. Corvettes can be more powerful, they're definitely more flexible, they can be more fun, but they don't make the original ships irrelevant. Instead, the consensus seems to be that each has its place. Corvettes as customizable mobile bases, and original ships as specialized tools, collectibles, and personal symbols of identity. And in all honesty, I couldn't agree more with you guys. You've shown in the comments that proves that ship hunting and ship identity are still alive and well in No Man's Sky, even in the brand new age of totally customizable ships. Right, I'd now love to hear from you guys in the comments as well. Do you think Corvettes have made the original ships obsolete, or do you think there's still place for both in the game? Are you sticking with your exotics, your solars, your interceptors, and your living ships, or are you all in on Corvettes with the freedom that they give you? Drop your thoughts down in the comments, not just a quick yes or no, but why. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you play for stats and performance, or do you care more about customization style and whatever else? just brain dump your thoughts in the comments. I would love to hear them. And that just about wraps this video up. Corvettes may be the shiny new kid on the block, but the original ships we've all spent years hunting and flying still hold their ground in a lot of ways. For me, it's not about choosing one over the other, it's about enjoying the flexibility No Man's Sky gives us. Sometimes I'll jump into my Corvette and treat it like a mobile base, and other times I'll hop into my upgraded squid ship because it just feels right and I want to get involved in some combat. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you saw both sides of the arguments. And if you did enjoy this, it would be totally awesome if you could support my channel by hitting those like and subscribe buttons. You can now become a channel member as well, and as always, thank you for watching this video, and I hope to catch you in my next one.